Hey, I'm so excited to share with you my July favorite reads. There's some really good ones this time. Not like there isn't always, but we're gonna kick this off with The Idiot by Dianna Roman. Now, to be fair, it depends on who you think might be the idiot, and sometimes there are two idiots in this story, but Jessie and Murphy are best friends. They've been friends forever, and in my mind, I think Murphy is the bigger idiot, okay? Jessie comes across as really naive a lot of times. The best way to put it is like, you need to spell everything out for him. He does not get subtlety whatsoever. So when Murphy finally can't keep this secret of being gay any longer, and he comes out to his best friend, he's very worried about how Jessie's gonna perceive him and how things will change. Meanwhile, Jessie is just kind of saddened in a way that Murphy never felt that he was able to come out and tell him. And so he's kind of going through his mind. He's like, well, if I don't know this about Murphy, is there other secrets that he felt he couldn't tell me? And then he starts thinking about all their interactions, and he's like, wait, have I not been a supportive friend? Are there reasons that he would think that I would change how I interact with him? And so he tries to do new experiences and new things that he believes Murphy wants based on things that Murphy has said. So like Murphy has told him that he goes out to rodeo shows a lot of times. Murphy's not going out to rodeo shows. He's going to a city to find a club, but he didn't want to tell that to Jessie, because if he told that to Jessie, he would come along, and Murphy needed some alone time. So here Jessie has always thought that Murphy's a big rodeo fan and has gotten him like little gifts for rodeo. And now he's like, wait, does he not like those gifts because he's not actually going to the rodeo? So here he is trying to refigure out his whole friendship. And meanwhile, everything that he does to try to show his support for this quote unquote new Murphy is seen by Murphy in this like kind of negative light, and mostly because it's Murphy projecting his own insecurities and his own fears onto the friendship and Jessie's reactions, and which I really had a problem with. He kept trying to push away his best friend who he's had this like decades-long friendship with. So as a way to get a little bit of space and some time away, Murphy books this cruise around Thanksgiving, I believe it is, which Jessie's a little devastated because they've always done Thanksgiving together. But Murphy's like, no, I need some space. He's on this cruise, and all of a sudden he looks over, and there's Jessie. Jessie last minute got on this cruise because he wanted to like fight for this friendship that is very important to him. Jessie, while he's very outgoing and very sweet, relies on Murphy. Like this has like been a rock for him, and Jessie needs someone to keep him grounded. He's got these wild, crazy ideas. He's just a lot of fun. His heart is huge, but he needs someone to kind of like reel him in a little bit. So some people might think Jessie's like a little slow, I guess, a little, like I said, naive, but really it's just Jessie just he's just not a subtle person, okay? You can't you can't beat around the bush with him. And I think Murphy does that a little bit too much, even though he knows this character, he knows Jessie, like he knows the core of him, and yet he keeps twisting everything, which I kind of problem with him. This is a sequel to The Gentleman by Dianna Roman, but that deals with Jessie's brother, and really the two aren't terribly tied to each other, so you could get away, I think, with just reading The Idiot without that. But The Gentleman was really well done. It was a little bit of a different story. But so these guys, while they're on the cruise, kind of, things happen in tight spaces, and they start to like build like this new bond. And Jessie thinks it's going one way, and then Murphy kind of thinks, well, once we get back to our regular scheduled program back home, it'll go another way. And then they have to navigate this whole new aspect to their friendship, basically, once they get back to reality. And the best thing, though, is Murphy, even though he keeps trying to push Jessie away, Jessie will not let him. I absolutely adored the fact that Jessie fought for the friendship and like made Murphy finally come to terms and face his fears and just be like, dude, You're my best friend, you know, like, you know, now we're building more on top of that. And why are you so scared? So like, let's break this down. It was a really good scene. I enjoyed it. It was just like a really heartwarming read, and it made me feel really good at the end of it. And I lived it. Moving from heartwarming to a little bit more, I guess, violent and serious, we've got Atlas by Sienna Moreau. So Atlas is a spin-off of Sienna's Four Horsemen series, which you have to read before you get into Atlas. If you read Atlas first, not only are you spoiling the Four Horsemen series, you will be highly confused because you're kind of already in the middle of this apocalyptic universe where there's a bunch of demons out there killing a bunch of humans. The forces of heaven and hell are out there already fighting, and actually nobody knows what kicked it off this time. And we already had Conquest with his story, which actually kicked off the Four Horsemen. So Conquest and Raziel are in Conquest story. And then we had, you know, war, famine, and death. And then during that, we kind of see Atlas as a side character becoming slightly important. However, because after it was like he got introduced after Conquest, the other guys didn't care. They're just like, okay, what's this human doing around? I don't know. I got my own story to take care of. And so there's mentions about how Atlas is kind of like with those two, but everyone's like, I don't understand why they're so important. So this takes Atlas, and there was like at the end of that one, kind of like a big like I don't know if revelation's the right word, but there was kind of like a big surprise regarding this character that we're now kind of peeling back the layers. So now we're diving in. This spin-off is all about Atlas and kind of takes place at the same time as those Four Horsemen, and then I'm assuming later on too. So this is actually kind of split into, I think, at least 2 parts. I'm not quite sure exactly how long this new spin-off is going to go, but the first part, Atlas is out, and we see how he's kind of attracted Conquest and Raziel's attention, which is kind of interesting because Raziel was kind of an angel, but he's not, and he's just a kind of a big sweetheart, where Conquest is like this super possessive, and he's like, Raziel's mine, don't look at him, don't touch him, turn around or I'm gonna break some bones, kind of a character. And yet there's something about Atlas that like calls to both of these guys, and there's like an instant connection. And I think it seems like Conquest knows why that might be a possibility, or Raziel is kind of definitely in the dark, and Atlas has absolutely no idea what's going on, other than he's like, I didn't really want to get involved, but I kind of like feel like there's no, like, you know, like there's no helping the connection that they all have. So we get to see these 3 guys slowly build this weird triangle that they've got going on, and then like coming to mean more to each other. And we didn't get the full story, so this is a little bit of a cliffhanger. I kind of wish the other part was out now because I want to know exactly what's going on. I think I have an inkling. I don't want to give anything away. I have an inkling about why Conquest is okay with Atlas, and why there's kind of this, they've kind of dropped hints, this feeling about Atlas, and how he kind of fits in, but it hasn't been said yet. There's nothing stated as to like what is going on, because there's something with Raziel as well, and how he was created, that I think caused this, you know, this connection that we're now getting. So it's really interesting. This is a really good world with lots of details to it. So like the characters are like very good, well-rounded. Well, I don't know about well-rounded. Some of them are just crazy, but they got a lot of depth to them, which is really nice. And I just think it's a really fun, action-packed high violence, lots of murder, but it's just a really fast-paced action story, which it just sucked me in from start to finish. Enjoyed it. As a little bit of a palate cleanser, I recommend Method Acting by N.R. Walker. So this is part of a college romance multi-author series called Franklin University, otherwise known as FU. And now I think there's a second wave. So all the authors in this series are really well done, are really good. I really enjoy it, like all of them. They're usually a little bit of a, I would say, shorter story, and there's a fun college romance. So there's some ink, some drama, but the drama is usually like college drama. It's not it's not so heavy as previous. So Amos and Chase are two students in this drama class, and they're thrown together for this project. So Amos is like this loner who comes across as kind of emo. He loves dark clothes and black kind of a thing, and he definitely keeps people at a distance. He like doesn't seem to care what people think of him. I mean, he'd like some friends, but at the same time he's like, people are a lot of work. Right? And then you've got Chase, who's kind of like the life of the party, the all-American star who, seems like he has all these friends, seems like he's just here to have fun, but they both take their acting classes seriously, and they're doing this reality program. It's supposed to be like 90210 mixed with, I don't know, all the other reality kind of shows out there now, and their characters are supposed to be in a relationship, and so for the plot of this reality show, right? So they're supposed to get comfortable with each other, spend a lot of time together, and as they do, they really see to the core of each other. So Amos sees how like Chase is kind of putting on a facade, even though I don't think Chase fully gets how he's keeping a distance between himself and others. He's got a couple good friends, but for the most part, he doesn't really let people see like a more serious side to him. Amos doesn't really like let people see how lonely he is, or I don't know, like how big a heart he has. And so Chase really gets to see that, and then glamps onto him, almost figurative or literally, because he just won't stop being physical with Amos. He's like always like being in his presence. It was kind of cute. And so they're supposed to be a method acting for this project because the cameras are supposed to be on them about 24 hours, 7 days a week for this reality program. And so then it's like kind of blurring. Their characters are pretty close to their, actual selves because they are in school, so they still have to like go to class and do all this stuff. And so the lines start to blur. And the person you think would be like more in touch with their feelings, Chase, is actually not in touch with his feelings and has this huge dramatic breakdown. And it was really I know it's supposed to be like this highlight, this is a big drama scene, but I found it hilarious because he's like, someone said I liked you and now I'm freaking out because that can't be, like, kind of a thing. So it's just like a really fun it's like one of those fun, lighthearted college romances, but it still has like, solid characters, still has a good amount of feelings packed into it. I didn't feel contrite at all. So I highly recommend N.R. Walker's work in general. And I think this was just a really great addition and a really good palate cleanser if you're tend to be on that dark and heavy side. And last but not least, we've got Love for Heller by Amy Bellows. I've mentioned some of Amy Bellows before. I really enjoy her stories. They are Omegaverse. This is no different. It's actually the last of the Alaskan Pebble Gifters series. You could get away without reading the whole series before you get here. I do recommend it because there's a fair amount of backstory with like the Forges and the other couples that we get to see. And if nothing else, a nest for Eli is kind of, I would say, almost recommended before this one because Heller was a surrogate for Eli, and so a lot of this one does deal with like adoption and how he gave Lark the child up for these two to raise, but how they're still, you know, really well connected. The three of them are basically raising Lark, and they keep asking Heller if he wants to be more involved, but Heller's already given up his parental rights. So there's a lot of adoption and family talk in this, and Heller has to go through this phase of like accepting that what he wants is changed, like, because to him his core is like no relationship and no family. Like, I don't need those things, I've never wanted those things. So he feels kind of like he has to stick with this. And then he's got Sergey. Sergey comes from Arizona. He's a half penguin, half polar bear shifter. And penguins and polar bears are notorious for not mixing. So he's never seen anyone that looks like him. He's never come across anyone. And he finally gets to see these cute little kids because more and more penguin and polar bear shifters have started to mix up in Anchorage. And so the parents like seeing like the older, someone who's, you know, grown up as part of both worlds, and he likes seeing the kids as like he can see them represented in the families. You know, he sees his parents and these parents, and it's kind of like a welcome and kind of home feel for him. Like he can finally find a place that like he connects with, which is awesome. So Sergey is up in Alaska looking for more forges because he creates these magic appendages, prosthetics for people who've lost limbs and such, and he just needs more space. And so he's come here, and his eyes set on Heller, and there's an instant connection, but he kind of tell that Heller is not ready for like a commitment, a relationship, anything like that. So he is very sweet in how he like gives Heller the space to process his own feelings, to come to terms with what they are, with their arrangement, and you can see that he just really cares for Heller and has like a really strong love for this guy, and he's able to create the space to give Heller what he needs, which is much appreciated. I think while their relationship is definitely like supposedly, well, not supposedly, is the focus. A lot of focus is on like Heller's changing thoughts about being a father, and we see that even from the beginning, from the very first. We see Heller dealing with his feelings surrounding just Lark in general, and how he kind of regrets not keeping some of the rights. And so like just having that talk with Eli and Max about how he can be more officially, I guess, a part of Lark's life, and allowing himself the change, which I think is really important. So Amy Bellows does a really good job of not only having her characters show not unexpected, show various gender and relationship ideals. Like, you know, she's across the board always kind of pushing gender boundaries, gender, what it looks like. Same with relationships, how they're built, who's involved in them, in a really respectful and honest manner. I think that reflects a lot of people's realities that should be highlighted more. But this one really reflects how like families can look different, and how you yourself can allow yourself to change and change your own story. So people, you know, like, oh, you know, that's a phase. Like the whole thing that something's just a phase, and kind of like blowing it off. Oh, that's a phase. But like allowing yourself to have quote unquote phases throughout your life, and letting yourself learn and lean into that. And then when it's no longer, when that no longer applies, you allow yourself into a new phase. So just because the phase that you had when you were younger isn't this phase that you're in now, it doesn't mean that just because it's a phase, it's pointless. You learned about yourself. You let yourself explore things during these phases. They're important to you growing as a person. And I think that was a really big theme in this book that doesn't get highlighted enough. There's so many that's like, you know, I was born this way and I died this way and that's it. And it's like, well, that's not how people work. It's not how people work. People, you know, as you know, they have life experiences, what they want, how they move through life, all changes. And you can call it a phase, or you can just call it like a change, you know, but to minimize a phase just because you don't quote unquote like what they're doing is not appropriate. It's not helpful. Their phase is important to them and their self-growth, and you're gonna have a million phases throughout your lifetime, and I think that's something that highlights very well in this. And I think anyone that comes to the table and reads Love for Heller can get behind. So those are my 4. I hope you are enjoying some of the recommendations. I'm curious to see what you're reading as well. Please feel free to add any comments with your, you know, your favorites, what you've liked. If you didn't like anything, I'd be curious to say, you know, everyone, you know, could like their own, each their own, right? I will definitely keep reading on my own, and I am gonna be excited for more in the future. I just know it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and happy reading, you guys. Take care.